month's salary to all of the employees. That was completed last year already. So that goes beyond the confines of the provisions of the labor law. So the process in essence now is with the liquidators. So the shareholder being government in this case has no further active role to play. So the liquidators, I am aware that they have received more than one offer for assets. So the moment that they sell enough assets to pay the severance packages of the employees enjoy preference over any other creditors. So before any other creditor may get any money, the employees will receive their full severance packages. So there's no deliberate delay in the process that I'm aware of at all. And as I said, even I happened just by coincidence to run into one of the liquidators on Monday, and he then mentioned that they were expecting another offer during the course of this week. So I think, Honourable Vanani, I think the important thing, let's keep our fingers crossed that they do receive an acceptable offer as quickly as possible. Then the employees will receive their full severance packages. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Any other questions? I recognize Honourable Deval. Honourable Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I give notice that on Thursday, the 24th of March 2022, I shall ask the Minister of Education, Arts and Culture, Honourable Anna Hipondoka, the following. The Executive Director in the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, Sanet Steenkamp, recently revealed during an interview with the New Era newspaper that the Ministry is currently facing a serious undersupply of more than 1,500 teachers in the secondary education phase, that is, from grade 8 to 12. The ED further revealed that there is equally an undersupply of teachers in the junior primary phase, that is from grade 4 to 7, and an oversupply of more than 1,000 teachers in the junior primary phase, that is from grades 1 to 3. These statistics revealed by the ED are puzzling, to say the least. While the Ministry has consistently highlighted that there remains a critical undersupply of teachers in the upper primary and secondary phase, thousands of upper primary and secondary education teaching graduates from various institutions of higher learning remain unemployed. How is that possible? In some instances, upper primary and secondary education graduates have been unemployed and sitting at home for more than 3 years due to the thousands of posts that have been frozen by the Ministry due to supposed financial constraints. This has put an enormous strain on the quality of teaching and output on the current teaching complement of the Ministry, because those who are employed in the upper primary and secondary education phase have to teach multiple subjects to mitigate the shortfall. I thus ask the following. 1. Can the Honourable Minister inform this August House as to how many posts the Ministry plans to unfreeze and advertise during the 2022-23 school year in order to mitigate this critical shortfall of teachers in the upper primary and secondary education phase? 2. Has the Ministry put any plans in place to root out the prevalence of unqualified teachers that's just being used as cheap labor in the upper primary and secondary phase at the expense of qualified teaching graduates who are sitting at home unemployed? 3. Lastly, the ED expressed concern about the oversupply of teachers in the junior primary phase. Will the Ministry consider consulting institutions of higher learning to ensure that the output of universities match the job market dynamics of the basic education fraternity in order to avoid further proliferation of unemployed teaching graduates? I so submit.
Submit your notice of question. Any other questions? Notices of motions? Message from the head of state. Ministerial statement. We will proceed to today's agenda. We have a notice. We start with a notice of motion by the Minister of Finance or Deputy Minister. Does the Honorable Deputy Minister move the motion? Yes. Who second? Any objection? You have the floor.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, honorable members, I rise before this August House to table the amendments to the multilateral monetary agreement of the Common Monetary Area. The amended agreement aims to enhance efficiency and collaboration among the CMA member states. In 1974, member countries of the Common Monetary Area, namely South Africa, Lesotho, and Eswatini, entered into multilateral monetary agreement. The purpose of the agreement was to formalize and regulate monetary agreements among themselves in advancing the socio-economic development of the sub-region. Namibia joined the MMA in 1992, just 2 years after its independence. Honorable members, the CMA had so far worked well in contributing to the attainment of the socio-economic objectives of the member countries. However, to ensure its effectiveness, changes had to be introduced to the agreement, specifically establishing the CMA institutions. The establishment of the CMA institutions aims to enhance better collaboration among members in addressing the potential risk relating to financial stability, the banking supervision landscape, and payment systems that would facilitate trade. 3 major amendments in the MMA relate to the following: the inclusion of Articles 6 and 7, which catered for cooperation and collaboration on issues relating to financial stability, banking supervision, and payment systems. The amendment of Article 10 to provide for the establishment of the CMA institution, namely Council, which comprised of Ministers of Finance and Central Bank Governors, and the Commission. Thirdly, the inclusion of Article 14, which outlined the applicable laws governing the MMA. These amendments provide for the following: 1. Establishment of the CMA Secretariat, which will be held in line with the rotating chairing of the CMA institutions as stipulated in Article 10(2.3) of the revised Multilateral Monetary Agreement, the MMA. This is meant to give each country an opportunity to serve, building capacity, and have a shared sense of ownership. The establishment of CMA Commission, comprised of senior officials from ministries of finance and central banks. The Commission is expected to meet at least twice a year and can be supported by technical working groups to deal with specific tasks. The establishment of the CMA Council comprised of Ministries of Finance, Central Bank governors. The Council is the highest decision-making body of the CMA and will approve matters as recommended by the Commission. Comrade Speaker, honorable members, if you can listen to me. These amendments were necessary to ensure efficiency of the CMA institutions and ensure optimal benefit of member countries of the CMA. With these remarks, Honorable Speaker, I so submit the MMA agreement for consideration and ratification. Thank you.
Any discussions? Any discussions? Any objection? Agree to? Will the Deputy Minister wish to reply? There's nothing.
Thank you, honorable members. I want to thank the House for having listened to and realized the urgency, importance of this agreement to be ratified, and thanks for the support in silence. Thank you.
Ratification is approved. The Secretary will read the first order of the day.
The resumption of debate on second reading, combating of rape amendment bill.
When this assembly adjourned yesterday, the 15th of March 2022, the question before the assembly was a motion by Honorable Minister of Justice that the bill be read a second time. The Deputy Minister of Health and Social Services had the floor, and she might now continue if she's available. Deputy Minister, is she around? Is she there, Dr. Esther?
I think she is still giving the update.
Anyone who would like to contribute? I recognize Kawandenge, Honorable Kawandenge.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to this rather important piece of legislation. Honorable Speaker, sometimes we must listen to one another and raise the debate from mere pettiness. Am I reading the right one? Yes. To superior logic in order to convince one another on what is best and in the interest of the broader Namibians. I'm not claiming to be more clever than anybody else. That is why I always limit my contribution to areas where I think I can add value. That's why you never see Kawanenge raising up on every topic in this house. However, let me recognize the fact that the Honorable Minister of Justice is here, because I simply just want to get a little bit technical on this piece of legislation, primarily only touching on the legal front and legal principles in the bill and not mere speculations. You know, when I stood in this house in August 20 March 2020, I took the following oath: that I do hereby swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of Namibia and its people, and I solemnly promise to uphold and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia and laws of the Republic to the best of my ability. That's what I said. Yes, it is primarily on that basis that I rose today to make my humble contribution to these amendments to the Combating of Rape Act of 2000, guided only by our Constitution and adhering to the premise that all laws passed in Namibia must protect all citizens equally, those perpetrators and victims equally as well. A person is presumed innocent until proven guilty by a competent court of law. That is the premise of our criminal justice system. However, most of our laws are tailored in such a way that the odds against the perceived perpetrators are a tall order to climb right from the moment they set foot in our courts. The Combating of Rape Act of number 8 of 2000 is a progressive law on rape. The act gives greater protection to young girls and boys against rape. It provides for stiffer minimum sentences for rapists and defines marital rape, quite interestingly, as an offense in the eyes of the law. Granted, our society is at a crossroad and deeply bleeding from these ever-increasing acts of rape, cases against the most vulnerable members of our society. Indeed, I agree in principle that some drastic changes need to be made in order to nip these acts in the bud. However, we must be cognizant that the purpose of laws or laws, by definition, they are a system of rules that govern everyone in a country or society. That's one. We must also recognize that the same laws are regulating the action of that society and which can be enforced by imposition of penalties. Therefore, the purpose of laws is to maintain peace and order within a society or a country. But, however, Honorable Deputy Speaker, we must also realize that when bills come to this House that will have far-reaching implications to the liberties and rights of our people, I must implore us as lawmakers to read them carefully. Because it is when we don't listen to one another, listen to the theory, when we don't read to understand ourselves, that bills get passed right in front of our eyes. And later on we wake up and realize that indeed these laws are inhuman. While speaking here, I'm reminded of the Stock Theft Amendment Bill of 2004. This bill was passed here in this assembly. This act now imposed unimaginable heavy sentences to those found guilty of stock theft. Of course, I am a farmer myself. I also own cattle as well. However, I believe it is inhuman to sentence someone to a maximum of 10 years to 20 years for stealing goats, cattle, and so forth. However, those that sat in this chamber when this bill was here did not apply common sense and logic and debated this bill truthfully. Yes, let me narrate and quantify why I'm saying so. I will never make a blunt statement without quantifying. The end result is that this bill was passed through this chamber and it has become a law as we speak now, where the lives of goats and cattle are more important than the lives of human beings. I implore this August House not to make the same mistake by letting this amendment pass in their current form, as they have far-reaching consequences in the long run to the liberty and freedom of the men folks in Namibia. However, I wonder when will the Minister of Agriculture, or the Prime Minister for that matter, or the Minister of Justice propose amendments to this Act's draconian provision on sentencing. As if you fail to do so, someone might approach the Supreme Court to review this Act, and I have no doubt in my mind that it will be declared null and void and in conflict with Chapter 3 of our Constitution that protect fundamental human rights and freedoms. I believe that once I establish a false premise at the beginning, the whole edifice of the Minister of Justice proposed amendments will fall out, as I will illustrate now going forward. Honorable Deputy Speaker, it is here where I want to make my humble contribution when it comes to the protecting of individual rights and liberties. Article 1 of our state of the Republic of Namibia states that the Republic of Namibia is hereby established as a sovereign, secular, democratic, and unitary state, founding upon the principles of democracy, the rule of law, and justice for all. Let's interrogate the issue of justice for all for a moment. I am of the opinion that the insertion of the following words in the proposed amendments by the Honorable Minister clearly flies in the face of that provision of justice for all. The Minister proposed that the court shall not draw any inference only from the absence of semen or from the absence of evidence of the rupture of the hymen. Now here I have a serious reservation, Honorable Minister, because as much as we have these ever-increasing cases of rape in the country, our laws must equally protect those who are accused of rape until the state can prove those facts in a court of law. Now, can the Honorable Minister inform us how the state can prove that the rape has taken place in the absence of semen? Is the presence of semen perhaps not the only conclusive evidence that rape has taken place, while adding all the other proofs as well in the process? Will the accused not be entitled?
Yeah, point of order.
With your permission, Deputy Speaker, with your permission of my honourable member, I just want to ask him just a technical question as a man. Maybe he can answer me, since I'm a woman. Do I have a permission?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question as a man?
Yes.
Yes, in the process where, in the case of a rape, if the rapers use condoms, would we find the semen? Just a question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will answer that question just briefly just now, but let me just quantify that statement because I left it in the air. When a person makes a statement, wait until Opwenda then you can ask. Yes, but I will answer you just now. Will the accused not be entitled to the declaratory that he seeks in a criminal matter of innocence in the absence of semen? In a judgment in the case of Wahid Khan versus State of Madhya Pradesh on December 2009, the Supreme Court held that the absence of semen is sufficient ground to invalidate the claims that rape was committed. Honorable Deputy Speaker, we are living in a world where at times two people might agree to have sexual intercourse and then something goes wrong with their plans, whatever that might be. The best option then will be to scream rape by one party. I'm asking this because there are many of our menfolks who are currently languishing in prison for an act they did not commit. However, our legal system is hell-bent on punishing anyone heavily when the word rape appears. Honorable Deputy Speaker, even the fact that the minister proposed that even in the absence of the rupture of the hymen, the courts might find that the defendant is guilty. The combating of rape, and to answer that question.
Point of order.
I'm answering a question, unless there are two questions that will come at the same time.
Maybe he has got some information. Point of order. We must procedurally.
Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Honourable member is alluding to a statement as contained in the amendment. Could the Honourable member confine to this House his understanding of the following? In a criminal proceedings at which an accused is charged with an offence of a sexual or indecent nature, the court shall not draw any inference only. Don't you understand that others can also then be conclusive evidence, so that that can only be the judgment to say you are guilty or not guilty? So what's your understanding of that phrase only within the entirety of the amendment?
Proceed.
Thank you very much. I will still answer. Let me continue briefly. The Combating of Rape Act 2000, Act 8 of 2000 defines rape as follows. Listen, Nekundi, Honorable, please. Any person in this act referred to as a perpetrator who intentionally, under coercive circumstances, commit or continues to commit a sexual act with another person by insertion of any part of the body or any object in that part. I cannot say that part because I was not raised to say that word out clearly out. Without consent shall be guilty of rape. May I therefore ask what the other object or what other object can be inserted there that will constitute rape? Is it fingers or what object? This is to the minister, because I'm minding my words now because my kids are also at home watching. I cannot say that word. When I enter in the room, they will say, "Daddy, but what did you say in Parliament?" No, sorry. So now, following that definition of rape that is so vague in shape, word, and content, Honorable Minister, this new amendment will, in my opinion, lead to many innocent men to be jailed as well. As the only viable proof needed, it seems, with these new amendments, is to scream rape, and all hell will break loose against the perceived perpetrator. We are in a catch-22 situation currently in Namibia, that these blanket laws that protect our women against rape has been turned into money-making schemes as well. Because there are many men in this country who are being blackmailed because they had consensual sex. However, after that sex is over, there comes disagreement, and then the men are told, "Give me this or that amount, or I will report you for rape." This is happening. It's a daily reality as well. These men then have no option then to comply for fear of being reported for rape, since there was penetration. This is a daily reality as well happening in our country. So our laws therefore must not make it easy for one part of our population to suffer at the hands of the opposite sex. However, our laws must be seen to protect both equally. The minister asked us to approve these amendments, particularly to amend the Criminal Procedure Act of 1977 to provide for additional duties of the prosecutor towards complainants and to vulnerable witnesses. Let me quantify what I'm saying here before I continue to the Criminal Procedure Act. Honorable Deputy Speaker, let me ask you. Today, we are sitting here in Parliament as lawmakers. We pass this amendment in its current form. And to come back to your question, both questions of semen, if there are no semen, because somebody used a condom, will there be semen? That's what was your question, right? All what I'm saying is that the following, that if that insertion is there, Honorable Minister, that the courts might not only draw conclusions from the absence of semen. I want to be told that now, how will you prove that rape has taken place? No, I mean, I need the minister in her reply to tell me, how will you? So anybody that I had consensual sex with, we go into a room. We come out of that room as a man, right? Something goes wrong. We don't agree on anything there or whatever, money, whatever. We are out, and then I'm being accused of rape. What we are passing here, colleagues, fellow lawmakers, it will also have an impact on our family members later on. Our own kids, our own family brothers, that tomorrow they might be found guilty. How, I don't know, but in the absence of semen. Let's just park there, that one there, for a moment, and think about it. Because tomorrow it will be a close family member. And then we will be reminded that, no, don't say that, because when this bill was passed in Parliament, you were sitting in Parliament and you agreed to its implementations. So therefore, I'm saying that while we are also protecting the sites of our women folks, while it is our duty as lawmakers to do so, because the rape cases are really increasing in this country, we must also not make it easy for innocent men to be blackmailed at the expense of these laws that we are passing today or tomorrow or the day after. That's all what I'm saying, that we have to be very cautious about that. Because when we talk about rape in this country, Honorable Minister, we are only talking about the women being raped. My goodness, there are men that can also be raped. Yeah? But when a man that has been raped comes to the police station to report, what do we do? What do our police force do? Yeah?
Point of order.
Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy Speaker, it is not my intention to disturb the Honorable Kawandenge in his posits argument that he's putting forth, but I just want to ask him as a Herero cousin, how is it possible for a man to be raped by a woman? And I'm asking this question with all the seriousness it deserves. In the culture that I and you hail from, the culture that I and him hail from, we have a culture. Your elders of Aramo, right? Your Varamwe, your kissing cousins will prepare a younger man into manhood.
Talk through them.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes? That can be construed as rape. Because it becomes consensual. Because your Shiramo says, what can you do as a man? To entice you. And then if you are enticed, and the man just needs to get up in order to do. So how is it possible for a man, a whole Nekundi, to be raped by a woman and be able to tell me that I was raped by a woman? A whole this guy. It's impossible.
Thank you very much.
Unless it is consensual.
It's just unfortunate that we all perhaps don't have, perhaps because we don't have access to reports of our social workers, Honorable Venani, in this country. But I have seen a report written by some of our social workers that attests to the fact that men can be raped by women. That it does happen. It is also a question perhaps of economical power as well, but it does happen. But we are trivializing this issue as if it does not exist, but it does exist. So, Honorable Minister, let me turn now briefly, Honorable Deputy Speaker, to the Minister asked us to approve this amendment, particularly to amend the Criminal Procedure Act of 1977 to provide for additional duties of the prosecutor towards complainants and to vulnerable witnesses before the commencement of trials. It is a fact, Honorable Minister, that in our legal system, the prosecutors are the most influential people in our criminal justice system. The decision they make, particularly the charging and plea bargains, control the operation of the system, and it is here where the outcome of criminal cases are determined. You are asking us to amend this without elaborating what duties are you seeking to empower prosecutor with in respect of complainants and vulnerable witnesses. In your submission, the minister wants, or in her submission, the minister wants to insert the wording that a person can be found guilty of rape by attempting conspiracy and incitement to commit rape as well. Perhaps the minister can respond to the above statement how a judge can find someone guilty of attempting conspiracy and incitement to commit rape as well. Because often than not, instead of establishing a defendant guilt and sentence through an important process with a complete investigation and an opportunity for the defense to present its case, some prosecutors take on the role of whether they will win or lose at the trial. The end result is a decision that has little to do with the primary objectives of the criminal justice system. Having said that, Honorable Minister, that will be my really brief contribution to the debate on the floor. The only thing that I ask the Minister to look in with these amendments, maybe in your reply, is to also think about the exploitation that some of our women folks do or make when it comes to rape. Because it's a fact that we are having many men's folk sitting in prisons today that really did not commit rape. They are there. In prison. Now, on a balance of probability or beyond any reasonable doubt, it's because it's a criminal case. I don't know how it happens, but throughout the world you will hear a person is found guilty today, after 10 years, new evidence emerged, and the person is set free. So while we are talking about our women folks and really being cognizant of the hardship that they are enduring today in Namibia with regard to rape, we must also look at the aspect of exploitation that the men folks are also faced with. Because at the end of the day, Honorable Minister, let's face it, stiffer sentences have never deterred those who will be perpetrators. Is it not perhaps a question of the moral decay of our societies as well? Is it not perhaps that we should go back to the basics of how we are raising our kids? But we are always talking about the girl child. We have never, and maybe to a minimal extent, we are talking very minimally about the boy child. Now you cannot only protect the girl child while leaving the boy child alone. So these two must coexist together. If I have to talk to my boy at home to say, you cannot treat your sister like that, is that not perhaps the moral decay that we have lost? Because these sentences, you might increase it, they might become 30 years for rape, but at the end of the day, is that a deterrent for would-be perpetrators to do what they are doing currently? But in general, rape should be condemned by every peace lover in Namibia, because we are having sisters and brothers as well that are going through this. But as a government, we must protect the men and the women, and our laws must never be made to only protect one part of society.
Are you sabotaging my mic?
No.
All right, thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I'm just interested to hear from Honorable Kawandenge, since he's analyzing very important issues here, moral decay and the issues of men being raped and so on. But I want to look at it on this perspective of the kind of life we are living now and the way our young generation boys are being raised from the houses where we live. Honorable Kawandenge, if you look now, look at a place such as Havana or other locations where our young generations are being raised from, in terms of living in one shack, both mother and father and their younger brothers and sisters, and everything that takes place sometimes, it's also in the visibility of these young boys. I want you to address on that perspective with what we are discussing now. And again, if you look like in our culture, in Oshwambo, when you are raising up, as soon as the adults see you are growing into a man, you are being told to make what we call ontala. Ontala is a small man's house outside. But if you look at the kind of social life, the way we live now, it's a room, yeah, okay, whatever. So the way we live now, it's not permitting such kind of life anymore, and the threatening of not owning a house or not owning land to build a better place so that your kids and you can live even separately. Nowadays, people are living in flats where they are lending, or shacks where they are renting, I mean. But then everybody is living in that house. Some are even on the bed, some are on the floor. Now, as we are addressing this issue, how is this maybe going to be looked at as we are making decisions? You are talking about moral decay, you are talking about women's raping men. I can maybe say I can attest to that. But I don't know. I don't know if we are familiar with these words of saying, sugar daddy and sugar mommy. Honorable Kawandenge, there is a practice nowadays where grown women, their flavor is in young boys.
Honorable Member?
Yes, their flavors is in young boys.
Honorable Member, I'm intervention very short.
Yeah, no, I'm done. I'm almost done. I don't know why you don't want me to. I'm actually wanting him to elaborate more on the issue saying. I'm saying nowadays grown women are having flavor in young men. And young men are being taken up by this in terms of gaining materialism, the cars they are driving, and the owning houses. So maybe Honorable Kawandenge look at that as you are addressing that aspect. So maybe you are doing well. Thank you.
Yeah, he's talking on a point of order. You cannot ask a point of order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's why, Honorable Martin, I refer to the moral decay of our society. Now, except the issue of poverty that is also contributing for parents and kids to be in one room or sleep in one room, there is also the advent of social media, where our kids also, whether you tell them or you don't tell them, by age of what, 14, 13, they already know what is what. When we were growing up, our mothers will tell us, no, when you ask where did this small shell come from, she will tell you, no, I went and bought it from where? From the shops or something like that. But today our kids at 12 or 11 know already, in fact, know already how this kit is made. So the advent of social media as well has also contributing greatly to where we are today. However, Namibians, the only plea that I have, Honorable Minister, is that perhaps we have to go back to the basic principles of Christianity, of how we were raised as kids. In that environment, perhaps it will help. Because stiffer sentences, Honorable Minister, in my opinion, they are not any deterrent. The churches should come in here and really help redefine and redirect society as well. Because stiffer sentences, in my opinion, will not do the trick. Thank you very much.
I recognize Honorable Minister Doreen Theo.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable members of this House. I rise also to support the Honorable Minister of Justice for tabling this amendment bill with a hope that discussions will finalize to pave a way for the enactment and enforcement of the Act. Rape has become a common occurrence in Namibia, especially those cases where the perpetrators are people entrusted with the safety and the protection of their victims, that is, close relatives and the fathers. Comrade Deputy Speaker, I'm full in agreement with the increment of the minimum sentence for the rape, which is outlined in the amendment bill by the Minister of Justice. However, I am of the opinion that this sentence to be served in full without any parole. Any parole, there's no regretment which they are getting in the prison. They have to serve it in full. The Ministry of Gender Equality and Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare will continue immediately we enact this law with our awareness campaign. And I'm inviting everybody in this house, wherever you go, raise the awareness of the danger of rape. Although, through different platforms, we have to including the gender-based violence regional clusters. We have got clusters which we have already laid as a ministry, starting from the constituency level. Councillors there, they have to give a report to the regional council, up to the national headquarters. And the chairperson of the national agenda is the Prime Minister, that's the chairperson. And we are after to meet maybe this month or next month. The Prime Minister will institute that meeting. Comrade Deputy Speaker, I'm one. Yesterday I was really disturbed. As leaders, I'm one who does not support the idea of castration. We should not try it as leaders. Castrations. They are human beings, even though they are committing crimes, even as we do commit crimes, but will not call on castration. That's very inhuman because we are signatory and we ratified some international and national conventions. Otherwise, we'll be led to be violating what we have signed for. Comrade Deputy Speaker, women and girls.
Point of order on top.
Is he talking? Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It's just a point of information to my senior comrade that I understand that castration to human being, it does not stop a man to continue doing or engaging in sexual intercourse, because your manhood will continue to stand, but the only thing the man will not be able to produce to make kids. Yes, to human being. That's how it's apparently working.
What did you say?
Yes. Okay. Women and girls, it was just a comment, yes. Women and girls are no longer safe in the land of the brave. They are no longer safe. Be it night, daylight, be it at home, outside, wherever, even working place, they are no longer safe, afraid of being raped by their fellow menfolk. May I ask this question? What goes in the minds of our fellow men? Some men, not all of you, some men, whereby you go to the extent of raping a 2-year-old child, an ice block, you force to do it. What goes in our minds? Somebody was trying to imitate it, to refer it to the traditional healers yesterday here. When you look at that traditional healer, how poor he is, and you believe that person can give you something, can give you juju by raping a baby so that you get more wealth, which never happens. You see, which never happens. So I don't know what is going on. Maybe I don't know why we'll blame a shift. We'll put the blame, we'll shift the blame. In the same vein, I would like to call on all women. For me now, I call on all women, not men, that they should take care of their children. They should protect their children. Protect them in the sense that they protect them from their fathers, they protect them from their brothers, uncles, and the grandfathers, because those are dangerous species. Some of them, they are very dangerous. So mothers, take care of your children. Don't let them in the hands of these. You take 2 hours, make sure that you peep what is good. Don't trust even your husband. He can do it. Yes? We have got men who have raped their own daughters. It's a simple thing, Oshiri. No, but it's true. Fathers, real father, biological fathers of those people. So they become vultures. We have to protect our children as women. Ministry of Gender have already, there was an issue of leaving out a boy child and men, not engaging them. That's not true. Let me tell you, I've taken 15 years in the Ministry of Gender.
Yeah, point of order.
Right.
Honorable Maureen, the last column is for TTS and look at your neighbor, the last column.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I'm extremely sorry to interrupt my boss. It's a point of information. My Honorable Minister, that's why we have got different ethnic groupings. And through that, we have got different cultures and practices. So I'm just giving information to my Honorable Minister that we differ in the way in which we are doing things. And I'm not defending the group I'm coming from. And in our culture, something like that is a shame, and it will never happen, or it will only happen because of modernization. Thank you.
Which one? I understand. It's me who understands you. It's true what he's saying. They don't, rapist. They don't rape. Yeah. It's true. I wanted to say that, comrade, when somebody was asking Honorable Kawandenge here that, Martin, when he was saying that the way we are living in one room and so, I wanted to give example of my tribe, the San people, that they sleep in one room, but raping is no, it doesn't take place. I can add on what you have said that I was in a battlefield with some men. I was alone. Big men, a big group of, nobody desired to propose me. Nobody. So we were sleeping together, swimming together. If you are a coward, remain as coward as you are, and as old as you are, you fail to go and fight for your own country. So you just leave me to talk what I know. They never had a desire. No raping. I came to learn raping myself here at home. Here at home.
Okay.
So
can we allow you to finish before we go for tea break?
Oh yeah, I'm finishing, ma'am.
Okay.
What I was saying was the issue of men, that the ministry is not engaging men. It's not true. There was a workshop which I called in Ochuarongo. Maybe old people should know who were here a long time ago. Where we invited men to go, and I even came and reported few men went there. Majority of them could not go there. But we are still continuing. We have gone a high level, very far now. Even this year there was a conference of men in DRC, of heads of state. If we are still behind in Namibia here, people are going. We are engaging men. Even now I've got that program of men engagement and boys. It's there. Now in Namibia, the first country which has raised at the AU, saying that we should not leave out a boy child. Even last week when I had a visual meeting of AU, I even told them, once it comes to violence, even boys and men are being violated also. Let's engage them. These are programs of the Ministry of Gender which we are addressing. The problem which I have, colleagues, you may blame me because you are not seeing maybe, but my staff members are already full on the ground. It's the minister you are seeing here, but my staff members are with workshops, are out there with workshops. And what I'll say, colleagues, our fellow men, why we are engaging you, is to assist us. Maybe if you talk with your strong voices, that's why some of us will raise voices. With your strong voices, we'll convince other men. We'll convince other men, really. Because they will see that you have changed, you are real gentlemen, and they should also change. That's why we engage you. But this workshop, again, I'll call upon it for members of parliament, especially men, to go and attend it somewhere, wherever I'll call you. I'll arrange this workshop for you. Comrades, let me not delay you for lunch. I just jumped in that I had to say something, otherwise next week it will be a very tough week. So I submit, comrade.
Thank you.
Deputy Speaker.
We break for tea and we come back at 10 past. Yeah? 5, huh? Make it 10. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I'd also like to add my voice to the current bill under discussion, the Combating of Rape Amendment Bill. I'd like to, on the onset, would like to support all the amendments that not only strengthen our legislative provisions, ensuring that the perpetrators and those who have been convicted of the crime of rape actually get the punishment they deserve, but more importantly, to ensure that even those who were not included in the ambits of justice are able to get justice through the amendments proposed by the Minister of Justice. I do not want to go further really into detail in every amendment because I think the amendments are quite straightforward and the members that had any queries or questions around them have done so. I support them unreservedly, but I do want to speak a little bit about rape in general and what these amendments would mean for the average Namibian woman, young woman, child that has been subjected to this heinous crime. Honorable Minister of Justice, in our society, in this Namibian country of ours, we know more of a woman or a child that has been raped as opposed to knowing a perpetrator that has committed a rape. And that speaks volumes, in that we know somebody that has been raped, but all of a sudden, we don't know the people that are doing or committing these rapes. And I'd like to highlight this because it speaks to the rape culture we have in our society. Because we also know of a victim of rape that is being forced not to report the rape incident, being forced or coerced by family members, by colleagues, by different members of society in whatever form they come in relation to that victim, to withdraw charges related to rape, as opposed to actually the family or the community members putting pressure on the perpetrator to actually face the music and face the law. That speaks to our rape culture as a society. This, in my opinion, are all indications of violent masculinity and victim blaming. These, in my opinion, are the cornerstones of rape culture. Honorable Minister of Justice, I have heard opinions of male friends, male colleagues, acquaintances, even strangers that we meet up over a drink and we discuss the rape culture in our country. And the first thing you ask them what they fear is when they go into prison. Our male colleagues will tell you that the biggest fear they have in going to prison is getting raped. That's what most people fear, male especially. That if you say, you know, what if you go to prison today? They will tell you, I fear that I'll get raped. However, that is the reality of women and girls across this country. We are not safe anywhere where rape is concerned. We do not have to go to prison to fear being raped. All we have to do is be safe or safe in the comfort of our homes, be safe in the taxi, be safe in the street, be safe in the church. But at the end of the day, we are not safe because those very places are where rape is happening. The women and girl child or child, both sexes in this country is not safe anywhere where rape is concerned. That speaks to the rape culture that we have in this country. If I have to tell you of the gymnastics myself and fellow women or young women have to go through, walking down the street to go to the corner shop, in a taxi, even wanting to have the right to enjoy ourselves in a space that we perceive as safe, the gymnastics we have to do, the mental calculations, you're constantly living of fear of someone taking advantage of you, attacking you, because rape is that. It is a culture in this country. We are almost constantly living through anxiety, constant stress. You are never relaxing anyway. You are not relaxed in any space because rape is a culture in this country, and any male could be a perpetrator who rapes you at the end of the day, no matter how trusted you might think that they are. Therefore, rape culture exists because some of us believe that it doesn't exist. From tacit acceptance of misogyny in everything from casual conversations with our peers to the media we consume, we accept the degradation of women and posit uncontrollable hypersexuality of men as the norm. That brings me to a very important word, consent. Rape is the absence of consent. Someone not accepting that you are saying no. Somebody not accepting that you do not want to take part into a sexual activity with them. If they don't rape you, they will show you that they do not respect you. They will do something to you outside of that to show you that what you mean and what you say does not matter. You, as the woman, do not matter. And that is the cornerstone of the rape culture. Because there's this tacit belief in some circles that men are uncontrollable. They cannot control their desires, their sexual desires. In some societies, I'm still a Namibian young woman who has grown up my whole life in Namibia. I know, I've heard this, and I've experienced it. The sentiments are there that men cannot control themselves. If in the middle of sexual intercourse as a woman or a girl you say no, some are of the opinion that they cannot just stop. It's uncontrollable. It is wrong. It is not true. All of us are responsible for our actions. And that is why I particularly accept and applaud this amendment that gives stiffer sentences to those who believe that their sexual desires are above the decisions of another person who does not want to take part in an activity. The responsibility always lies with the perpetrator, not the victim. And I think that's what these amendments are trying to achieve. Lessening the burden on someone who has gone through rape, lessening their reality, repeating in their head over and over for the rest of their life, going through a court system that can be grueling sometimes, going through a justice system that can be grueling and regurgitating the horrific experience that a victim has experienced. That's what these amendments are trying to do, to rather shift the responsibility to the perpetrator as opposed to the victim. And that's why I welcome them. Therefore, I support the amendments to the bill that seek to strengthen national legislative and policy frameworks in line with human rights standards and harmonized with other laws and policies to ensure gender equitability. And why do I do so? I do so because I disagree with the sentiment that stiffer sentences are not a necessity because they do not achieve absolute deterrence. I mean, what law does? We have stiff sentences for murder, culpable homicide, whatever you call it, but are still not a deterrence. So the idea that the stiff sentences are not a necessity, I reject. Because in my opinion, they achieve two things. One, justice for the victim, but more importantly, keeping rapists off the streets. Rapists have a behavior where if they rape once, they are most likely able to do it again. So for this stiff sentences in this amendment bill to be effected means that we are taking rapists who are reported, because there are still many cases that are unreported for the reasons I gave above. A rape culture, one that victim blames, one that protects the perpetrator instead of protecting the victim. So those who are reported and are convicted keep off the streets so somebody else's child does not become a victim. The truth of the matter is that the rates of conviction remain significantly lower than that of many other violent crimes. Whether it's assault by GBH, whether it's murder, the rape convictions remain far lower. For instance, according to Sister Namibia, in Namibia, 4 out of 5 people accused of rape never have to spend time in jail. And that's why these amendments are important, because they strengthen the ability for the court to actually put rapists away. In conclusion, Honorable Deputy Speaker, we need to intensify our prevention efforts. Honorable members who have taken the floor before me have spoken about to say that the law becomes an after fact, and it's true. We need to intensify our prevention efforts to address social norms, misogyny, patriarchy, violent masculinity, attitudes and behaviors that perpetuate inequalities and gender-based violence in our community. It is no coincidence that more victims of rape are women and children. It can't just be a fact that comes out of nowhere. It's because there's underlying attitudes, behaviors that preposit that a woman's decision, a woman's answer does not carry as much weight as a man's one. It is the social norm of misogyny and patriarchy and violent masculinity that are the cornerstones of our rape culture. And that is why I think the responsibility with this amendment lies with this August House, but the responsibility of preventing a rape culture in our society remains with all of us, all Namibians, to ensure that we do not protect perpetrators, we do not blame victims of rape, and we take responsibility for our sons and daughters who commit in this heinous crime. I so submit, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I recognize now the Deputy Minister of Health and Social Services.
Some people think.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
No, what does she mean?
I also take the floor to add my voice to the debate of a topic which is very sensitive, which is very diabolic also. Now, Honorable Deputy Speaker, sexual violence remains one of the horrible social phenomena threatening our Namibian society across all 14 regions. As Namibians, we continue to be annoyed by these diabolic acts of rape. Sexual assault or rape cause social instability in communities. It instills fear in the country. Rape is a source of psychological damage in our society. I have listened yesterday to Honorable Nekunti, and the aftermath, the effects of rape on the survivor is terrible. We are talking about physical effects. We are talking about emotional effects. We are talking about mental or psychological effects. Now, one example of a physical effect of rape. We have seen cases where the survivor is left with broken bones or dislocated bones. Psychologically, they are suffering from what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. That includes things such as flashbacks. Now, I want to give examples of couples that are happily married. They are happy in their marriage. They enjoy a financial stability. But when it comes to that particular moment, things are not okay. Cases where, when that moment of intimacy, the woman is just closing and switching off because of the flashbacks, remembering when she was a small child, being sexually molested or raped by either the father, the stepfather, the brother, or a boyfriend of the mother also. So we are not talking about things that we are not just taking out of our thumbs, but we are talking about realities. Now, for those kind of things, for women who are experiencing that, they have to receive psychotherapy, psychoanalysis to help them to deal with what they went through. And that is something that happened 20 years ago, but you still experience it while you are in your 40s. So it's not a joke at all. Emotional effects, just to mention a few, the sense of vulnerability, and also
anger that these people are experiencing. And in most cases, they change in trusting others because you start wondering. In some cases, the mothers are, and I appreciate what my Honorable Minister Sioka said, that as mothers, as parents, we need to take care of our kids. Because in some cases, the mothers are even aware what the father is doing. They are aware what the boyfriend is doing, but they are protecting. We are talking about culture. We have this thing in our culture where someone is raped. Now we are saying, let's come. They do. Then they will say, they are protecting now the offender, because they will say, let's talk and see. And they will pay, they will give 2 cattle. Yeah, they will pay 2 cattle. Protecting the offender. What about the survivor? It's happening. We cannot protect these things because of, in the name of culture. And Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members, for me, culture is supposed to protect. It's not supposed to hate. But our culture is hating sometimes. And in the name of culture, we want to keep things under the carpet because we want to protect the family name and so on and so on. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy Speaker, that is why for me it is very imperative that we need to have laws that deter, frighten, and discourage citizens to commit these diabolic acts of rape. To that effect, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I welcome the imprisonment for the period of not less than 10 years, 15 years, and 20 years in the case of the first conviction under various circumstances as expounded in the Honorable Minister's submission. I further also support the suggested periods of imprisonment in the case of a second or subsequent conviction. But however, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I need clarity from the Honorable Minister on page 4 of her submission, 4B, Roman 3. I just want to understand the rationale for reducing imprisonment from a period of not less than 45 to 35 years, unless my understanding is not correct, but I would appreciate some clarity there. Before I conclude, Honorable Deputy Speaker, in this whole scenario, we should also not forget the perpetrator. Because in most cases, perpetrators are doing this because they also went through, difficulty, or some of them were even raped when they were boys, small boys. Now there is what they call the confluence model of sexual aggression. That suggests that sexual assault perpetration is a complex behavior that is likely influenced by a combination of factors including individuals' developmental and family history, personality, environmental as well as societal influences. So in most cases, they also need help. And maybe in our laws, I'm not sure whether it is already catered for, maybe we need to have court-ordered psychotherapy and counseling as part of the rehabilitative package. It might help because currently we know that counseling is free, it's voluntary. So I can go for counseling, I can go for help if I need it, or if I don't need it, if I think I don't need it, I cannot go. But maybe if we have a court ordered that we are sending this person to prison, but we are also saying that after 2-3 months, we need to, the social workers at the correctional services need to provide a report also to say this is what we are providing as part of rehabilitation.
Point of order.
very old one. Thank you, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister. I think the aspect you are raising is quite important. And it speaks to perhaps two of the purposes of sentencing: deterrence, rehabilitation. Now, in the event that indeed the perpetrator is shown to be suffering from what you have just explained, could it then not be argued that emphasizing and hammering on stiffer sentences overlooks that rehabilitation part? In essence, the question that I want to ask is your opinion from your professional background and given what you are saying in relation to the sentences, that if it is so proven that this perpetrator is having some sort of background that, I don't want to use the word induce, but that sort of has an impact on what he does, that perhaps couldn't that then be used, especially in light of the fact that we are dealing with amendments, as a mitigating factor, that instead of hammering away, no, the person must go to jail for 47 years, or 45 years, or 15 years, whatever the provision, relevant provision at the time, that if it so happens that this person is proven to be suffering psychologically from an event that occurred to him in the past, that then becomes a compelling circumstance for the court to be able to met out or to depart from the prescribed sentence, in conjunction with what you are saying, that the court should be able to then order that this person get that psychological assistance.
Judge, I'm sure there are certain circumstances that they also take into account. I'm not sure, but you will know better than me. To continue, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I was almost at the end. In conclusion, I want to say that I believe that the Combating of Rape Act number 8 of 2000 is progressive, and I also appreciate the gender-neutral definition of rape. It stands that rape should not be seen as a sexual crime, but the rape is a crime of violence and power. Rape is a crime of violence and power which uses sex as a weapon to humiliate and destroy the survivors. And as I said yesterday, Honorable Deputy Speaker, if the gun want to shoot, we need to find a way to take the bullets. I know that a lot of people were saying that castration is a constitutional violation, is a violation of constitutional rights and so on. But rape is also a violation of that person's constitutional rights. So, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm still tempted that maybe castration, and I know that chemical castration. Now, let me explain. Yes. Let me just explain what is chemical castration.
I agree with that.
And I know that there are states, yes, you know, California, Florida, they permit, they allow. Yeah. And this, what they do, chemical castration, is they inject Depo-Provera, I think. Yes. Yeah? Because this chemical is suppressing the sex drive. Yeah. It doesn't disable. It doesn't disable. It just suppresses. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I support the amendments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I recognize Honorable Kabekotora.
Aye. Lekundi, you need to be suppressed.
I don't know, Honorable Deputy Speaker, why everybody is pointing to Nekundi.
You must be suppressed.
But Honorable Deputy Speaker, I also stood up to support the amendment, the proposed amendment, with the following qualification. I really hope that what we are doing now in passing these amendments will lead us to the desired result. Because if it doesn't, then obviously this whole exercise will be a futile exercise. And I'm also very happy listening to the previous speakers and the comments that they made across the board. Honorable Kawandenge touched upon a very important item, and that is a question of society, the moral decay. He called it a moral decay of society. I think that is a pertinent issue. They need to be interrogated further. Is our moral values strong enough? Was there a point in time where our moral values diminished? And if so, why? Because it's not only a question of the rape that we are talking about. There's so many social evils. Social evils. I don't want to mention it here because I don't want to step on other people's toes. But these social evils also raises eyebrow, because when I grew up, certain things were tabooed. And today, those things are generally accepted. How and where it came in, I don't know. Then Chief Kwikoko mentioned a very interesting concept about his community, where he said rape is non-existent among his people. And the minister also concurred that it's true that in their society rape is not there.
Can we listen?
Okay, I also took him during lunch, during the break. But that tells us something, because if that statement is true, then we can go back and learn from that reality as to what is happening, why is it happening, and why did they keep their tradition of keeping rape away from that community. It's a very interesting aspect, and I think it calls for some sort of a research to get an understanding of what is actually happening there. Then Honorable Theophilus, the Deputy Minister, also spoke about a very interesting concept. She termed rape as a culture. And I agree with her. She's not saying somebody else's culture. She's actually saying that rape has become a culture in our community. Now, a culture is something that has got values. A culture has got belief systems. A culture had certain behaviors. Now you ask yourself, how did we get into this culture? And honestly, the reason I'm saying that I tend to agree with her is because what the Honorable Minister of Gender Equality was saying, that how come a man like Nekundi, Honorable Nekundi, will go and start raping a 2-year-old person? Is it not time for us to start interrogating the mind of Honorable Nekundi?
If he has one.
what is what is going through his mind to decide, consciously to decide that I'm going to stand up and I'm going to rape a 2-year-old. There's nothing here.
How do you stand up to start with?
Now, that calls for an interrogation of the mind of the individual. As opposed to just bringing in a law, you need to understand that mind. And Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I believe that there is a need for us.
There's a point of order.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, honorable members, Honorable Kavekotora, will you agree with me on the culture part that not necessarily to accuse women, because we are all responsible in bringing up our children, but the way we bring up our children, especially the boy child, we normally tell the child, when you are with your son and there are other children playing on the side there, especially girls, and you want your child to go and play with others, we normally tell the child that go and play with the others, and if that particular child of ours is somehow shy to go, culturally we always say, are you scared of the girls? Go, 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 go. Don't be scared of the girls.
Is that what you
So is that, are we not, through that, are we not making boys not to fear girls as they are growing further?
way to fear girls?
Go ahead, go. Well, I cannot basically make an informed comment on that, but what I would want to say on that question is a question of, that is something that one can actually take as a hypothesis and then test it with the reality and then come to a conclusion as to whether that hypothesis, because the question also, and I'm sure that perhaps the statistics today are more readily available than yesterday. But the increase in rape, either through technology or statistics, might diffuse or negate your assertion that could have been, or that could be the reason why boys grow up to become rapists. But I'm sure that a hypothesis like yours can also be put in a pot, like with other hypotheses, and then be tested in terms of whether that is the real cause of rape or not. So that is just a way of testing the hypothesis. But finally, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I think we need to engage our institutions of higher learning in this particular aspect, to conduct some, research on this topic, so that it can complement what the Minister of Finance is trying to do. Because just putting up laws and amending laws, it will help to a certain degree. But I think bringing up the angle of what is wrong with our society today and test the number of hypotheses on that might help us also to bring the other part, or so that when we merge these two, we have synergy in addressing the issue of rape. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussions? I recognize Honorable Mkwilongo. Yan Mkwilongo.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, honorable members, I want also to give my contribution on this motion about rape. Today, there is two types of rape. The real one and the first. First one. Yeah, the first. Fake one. I'm not from Europe. False or Ifunji. I'm from northern Namibia, Oshakati. There is a syndicate of young girls. There in Oshakati, and there is a group also here in Windhoek. These young girls, they target business people or maybe people who work with money, even well off. Yes. Always these people, they target these people in a restaurant, those expensive restaurants, hotel or restaurant. I saw them one day here in Kubota, here in Windhoek. Yeah. These people, if they find you there, they saw you there alone, or maybe with you are two men, because they dress nice, dress to kill. They're looking so beautiful. They come close to you. They ask you if they can join you. I say, no, join. You buy them something to eat and to drink. After that, man is a man. You make a proposal to him, take him, book to Havana Hotel, you go with him. Later you finish a business, he asks you, where's my money? Which money? You give him 1,000. No, you say you give me 10,000, or he can ask 15,000. This is true. I know 3 or 4 business people from Oshakati, they pay. No, I tell you later. I tell you outside. Yes. One is already sentencing last month. He sentenced in the Oshakati magistrate for 15 years in jail. This is true. This is true. Yes. These people, they're having a connection with some of the police officers. He leave you in Havana, he say, if you don't want to give me that 10,000, you say, no, I don't have 10,000 now, because you're scared. You're a big businessman, you're a politician, you're scared. You say, no, I give you the money tomorrow. No, we can go to police station to make a declaration. Yes. After 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you had a call come to your cell phone number, to your cell phone. It's a police officer, oh, Sergeant, who? Is your name Pavlas Guilombo? Yes. There's a girl here. It's a girl here in police station. Please come to my office. Even it's 1 o'clock in the evening. Come to my office, please. You go there, you find that girl there. Start crying. No, this man, he flipped me. He say, give me 10,000. Now he changed, he give me only 500. Police officer just look to you, he say, no, this is a case, this is a big case, it's a rape case. If you don't have money now, you must make agreement. When are you going to give that 10,000? No, I give him tomorrow. Okay, bring that 10,000 to my office. Tomorrow morning, the bank open, you go take 1,000, you go to police office. You give, they make sure some is for the police officer, some is for him. That's why I say there is a syndicate. I like my case.
Thank you. I recognize Honorable Haroba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, in the absence of anyone else that wants to contribute, may I postpone the debate to the 23rd on behalf of Honorable Sidney Dumba.
Okay. If in the absence of any, the debate on this is postponed to the 23rd, which is next Wednesday. Okay. The Secretary will read the second order of the day.
The resumption of debate on the conditions of local authorities and why many of them fail to execute their mandates.
When this assembly adjourned on Thursday, the 10th of March, 2022, The question before the Assembly was a motion by Honorable Kawandenge that the motion be adopted. Why are you standing?
No, I'm listening.
Oh. I now give the floor to Honorable Kawandenge. Kawandenge?
Yes.
Yeah. Him. No, there was a disruption here. When, yeah, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm not replying as the Deputy Speaker is saying, but I did not finish my motivation of the motion that day because there were disruptions. So I'm just going to conclude because I was interrupted that
yeah,
day.
you proceed where you ended, yeah.
Yeah. I will proceed where I ended, Honorable Deputy Speaker. But, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I took issue particularly with the Local Authority Act of 23 of 1992. And I said that act has detailed the functions and duties of local authorities in Namibia. It is a document worth reading as it details the nature and scope of local authorities. However, Honorable Deputy Speaker, this act is a total contradiction of itself in many respects, especially when it comes to the issue of bureaucracy. Is the current act, that's a question, a $1 million question to fellow members of this assembly. Is this current act still relevant 32 years after the, or 29 years after the first promulgation? Does this act still respond to the increased needs and wants of local authorities? My answer to the above is a big no. It is my submission, Honorable Deputy Speaker, that this act is out of tune with the ever-increasing complexities of local authorities.
Yeah, point of order.
I thought you said when motivating, there is no disruptions, because I'm still motivating.
You are motivating?
Yes.
Okay, please. No. You must just ask a floor after he.
Yes.
Yes. Let's keep that tradition. Yeah? Come again?
Honorable Deputy Speaker, if rules are to be applied, it must be across the board. When you are motivating, you are not supposed to be interrupted. I am still motivating. I did not start from the beginning, and it's my right to motivate the way I want to motivate it. Yes.
Maybe he wants to.
No. There is no rule. There is no rule.
What rule are you applying?
There is no such a rule. When you are motivating, you are not to be disrupted. Deputy Speaker, am I protected? Can I proceed?
Yeah, proceed.
Thank you very much. Honorable Deputy Speaker,
the rules don't apply to you.
I'm not, what is the right word? I'm not repeating what I said. I'm recapitulating what I said. For God's sake, understand the nature of public speaking. Understand that. I'm not repeating word for word what I said. I'm summarizing what I said for the benefit of honorable members that were not here. So I'm not going to do that. So, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I said, and I'm going to repeat from reading here, that my contention is that the current Local Authority Act of 1992, and with the subsequent amendments, they are tailored and they were tailored to make the control of local authorities and put them in the hands of that line minister. And I'm going to quantify what I'm saying, because I cannot talk about the amendments to the Local Authority Act of 1992 without highlighting what those amendments were throughout this period and why I have a problem with those amendments. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm saying, so you don't want us to finish today? Honorable Deputy Speaker, for me, the problem with our current local setup is the bureaucracy within the Local Authority Act. Within the current Local Authority Act,
A ruling has been made, ma'am.
a ruling has been made unless some animals are more important in a farm syndrome than other animals, or more equal for that matter. A ruling has been made. I'm making my motivation.
If you have a ruling, take it to standing rules if you have a problem.
Please, let me continue and finish so that other people can also contribute. No, there is no rules that allow you to interrupt while a person is motivating. You must wait until I'm done, then you can take your floor.
Yeah, Honorable Kawandenge,
Yes.
let me listen. Maybe you
No. What? Listen to what?
No, let me listen. I'm still going to put it in a house of order. No,
You already
what
made
are
a
you
ruling.
standing for?
What rule is that?
Maybe he wants to pay attention, maybe for me. For me. Maybe he wants to draw attention to me, not to him. Yeah. Okay, can I listen? Where did I make wrong?
Allowing him. You are bullying the Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, you made a ruling.
So next time we can also do that.
Breach your own rules. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
No,
Why
maybe
should I
you want to draw attention to...
Why should I say?
No, let's
The ruling has been made. There's a
let's
procedure
listen
for
to
that.
The member is out of order. He's out of order. You already made a ruling. Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
The ruling was made.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, this cannot continue. No, not in a democratic parliament like the Republic of Namibia.
The ruling was made.
He's out of order. You made your ruling. I'm not going to sit down. No, I'm not going to sit down.
Okay. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Let him write to your note.
Exactly, sir. I'm going to...
No. When you are operating, there is nothing of that sort. Whether you like what I'm saying or not, I'm motivating emotion. So, Honorable Deputy Speaker, if you are floating your own regulations and standing rules and order, tell us today. Because I'm not going to sit down and I'm not going to listen to him. I am motivating, he must sit down, and until I'm done, then he can take the floor.
Ask her to...
Can you say what went wrong? Can you not tell?
No. Please, let me just finish what I want to motivate. Because this is just out of order.
Honorable Deputy, the time is up.
No.
Otherwise you will speak.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the rules are not for vehicle. And you cannot get angry when I read update the rules.
No,
you can't get angry for me.
It is out of order. You must just sit down.
Can you tell me
No. Sit down.
Sit down.
Down, you are out of order. No, we all read the same rules.
No, proceed.
Thank you very much. No, you are out of order. Sit down.
Sit down.
This is the parliament of the people. Please, sit down. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Sit down.
I have quoted and said, colleagues, I have said the problem that I'm having with the current Local Authority Act is a question of bureaucracy. I alluded to the fact that Rosa Luxemburg and Trotsky demonstrated what bureaucracy is all about. Now let me quantify why I'm saying the current Local Authority Act has a problem with bureaucracy. Let's start, for instance, on the land questions, the land transactions. Every single land transactions at the local level or local authority level needs ministerial approval. Why? At the rate at which we are going as a country, going into 40 years of our independence, simple land transactions that should be done there at that local level needs the signature of the line minister to approve or not to approve. And while business people want to do business, they are forever standing there in a queue. These decisions take months from the office of a line minister to be effected and to come back to local authorities. That is one bureaucracy that is hampering proper service provisions in our local authorities. The other thing is that the question of donations as well. Every single donation that the municipality, village council, or town council wants to receive should have ministerial approval. Any donation that the city of Windhoek or the municipality of Alvenby need to give, all tracts, all the whatever that they have to help other municipalities with, need ministerial approval. These things, honestly to God, whether we like it or not, are not necessary and should be done away with amendments to this act. There is a question of the reform paper. I want to put it on record in this parliament that at the dawn of our independence, and one must also applaud the Namibian government, at the dawn of independence, there was a sound articulation and sound principles on the policy of decentralization. It came from government. All the government should be what is it? What is the right way?
Don't listen. Just proceed.
Yes, the government should be recommended for that initiative. However, shortly thereafter, there was a shift in government position with regard to decentralization. Because all of a sudden, every little detail, every little power that the local authority had now started to go back again to the land minister. Yes, Nekudi, Honorable Nekudi. We have been in a local authority set up to know what we are talking about. Yes. All the amendments that came had nothing to do with service provision for the masses and to empower local authorities. All amendments that came had more to do with concentrating political power in the line minister of local government and housing, now urban and rural development. And that's a fact. So when I'm saying the question of the reform paper came in, the government of the Republic of Namibia had a sound projection of where they want to take the country to after 1990. Then came the reform paper that suggested how municipalities and town councils and villages should be assisted as the first entry of government resources and service provisions to the masses of this country. Then came the reform paper that suggested, long time ago, 20 years ago, on how to reform local authorities to bring it at par with other democracies around the world. What has happened to that reform paper collecting dust for over 20 years in the office of the line minister? And every minister that came did nothing about that reform paper. That's true. The other aspect, Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, is the association of local authorities in Namibia. And when I'm saying this, in this house, there are former mayors, former councillors that knows what I'm talking about. Even if they belong to the SWAPO party, but they can attest privately there outside that what I'm saying in this house today is the plain truth. Nothing to do with political affiliation, the plain truth. Arikana Owashiri Bunata. The Association of Local Authorities in this country, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable Tony, the Association of Local Authorities in this country is an institution that should represent the interests and aspirations of local authorities in this country. It exists on paper, but the very same government that gave birth to that Alan does not until today recognize Alan as a legal bargaining unit for local authorities in this country. And yet the very same government is pumping in money yearly to Alan to do what? All local authorities in this country are paying membership fees to Alan to do what? These are the realities of our situation, members of the ruling party. And I'm not making this political, I'm putting facts on the table. Why is Alan as an institution that receives government money not recognized by the very same government that pump money in that institution? Why until this day? Moving on, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I'm of the opinion, and I strongly really believe, that we must debate with sound mind whether at the rate we are going as a country, irrespective of our political differences and political orientations and whatever, in whatever corners we are, can we still, honestly, my Minister of Urban and Rural Development, can we still continue with the current setup where we have Part 1 municipalities in this country, like the city of Endu, Valfris Bay, and Swakopmund, Part 1 for that matter, where government only gives a portion of less than 1% to their capital budgets, but the government, through your ministry, is dictating to these local authorities as to when and how their budgets are to be approved. I don't know. And honestly, I need to be convinced, Honorable Prime Minister, I really need to be convinced that in this day and age, can we really afford to have what we call part-time councillors, Honorable Minister? Can we really, tell me, what is part-time about a city the size of Windhoek, with a budget allocation of 6.7 billion? What is part-time about that? The former mayors and former councillors that are sitting in this house can attest to the fact that they are and have been neglecting their jobs. Because you remember the reason why we say, or the current setup where you say these councillors are part-time councillors, they must still keep on their job, their daily job wherever they are working. So, which means that most of them can attest today that they are never at their workplaces. They are forever at the city of Windhoek with meetings, day in, day out, trying to provide basic services to the residents of Windhoek.
And those of other political parties are victimized because of that in the workplace.
Exactly. So can we really, Honorable Minister, still continue with that setup of part-time councillors? It doesn't work. I believe it's time for us to move on and make councillors full-time employees in their respective municipalities. Because why? For this one simple reason. When I came here 2020, I almost regretted coming to Parliament. Yes, let me tell you why. Honestly. Because at the setup, why did I come? It's my constituencies that sent me here. Run away, Honorable Nicanor. Why here? Brahma, you know what I'm talking about. You were saving once there. Well, the reason is because the workload at local authorities, level is much bigger, and you work directly on a daily basis with a community. Here we only pass laws. So the work that provides bread and butter to the residents and the citizens of this country are at the local authority level, not here. So whoever has served in that will tell you and testify to that today. That's one. Now, another thing, Honorable Deputy Minister, that I want to touch on
Deputy Minister.
is the
Deputy Speaker.
Is the duplication. Honorable Deputy Minister, please, maybe when you take the floor, you will be able to, in a position to tell me, what was the rationale to have regional councillors in especially municipal areas? What was the rationale? Tell me. I can understand that Namibia is a bicameral system where you have the National Assembly and the National Council. However, and I will agree that the founders of our constitution, perhaps they were right to say that regional councillors should exist in order to be closer to their people and their constituencies to deliver services, and especially in rural areas. There I will also agree. But a regional councillor in a setup like the city of Windhoek, where the bulk of the work and services are directed and supervised by the local authority councillors. What does a Katutura Central Councillor do? What does the, what is it? What really do they do in a municipal setup? To combine matters ways and to make matters ways. Regional councillors are better paid than local authority councillors. They have pensions, they have all the benefits, they are employed full time, but who does the work is the local authorities councillor, not the regional councillors at all. And to make matters worse, Honorable Prime Minister, the city of Windhoek must give an annual amount of 5% from their income to the Commerce Regional Council. What is that? To do what with that money? These are the realities of our situation. Now, I remember that the SWAPO party was, or the SWAPO government, let me rephrase that, because when I say SWAPO party, some people are getting emotional and very angry with me, but the SWAPO-led government, when at the dawn of independence you say you wanted to get rid of all reminiscence of apartheid. Now I'm asking, in this Local Authority Act, why did the ruling party maintain that aspect of rotational leadership every December? Does it really serve any purpose? You will elect a mayor in January. By December, there is rotational leadership. That mayor comes back or doesn't come back. New people take over. In light of consistencies and really to provide those basic amenities. Yes, who passed the law? It's a SWAPO-led government. Yes. So I'm asking whether that does make any sense. Because the reason why I'm asking these questions,
stick to your motivation, don't mention other people, because
the reason why I'm asking these questions is because if you give a full term of 5 years to Honorable Nekudi sitting there as a minister, 5 years, why 5 years? There will be things that you will say that you did not accomplish.
They will come and say
no, if only you could listen. No, if only, Honorable Speaker, I need to be protected. If only you could listen, I'm making sound proposals here. Even if I'm from a minority party, I am making justifiable suggestions and interventions. Now that is something foreign to SWAPO members of parliament. Yes. Now, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm asking, but let's interrogate this. What is wrong when I stand up and mention the name of SWAPO? What is wrong with that?
Don't
What is wrong? There is nothing wrong with that. SWAPO is a party in government. SWAPO is a party in government. Very good. Let me continue.
Stick to your motivation.
Thank you. Very good. No.
I'm talking.
Nekundi,
Yeah.
Nekundi, I've spoken
So,
to the president.
Motivate as you have started.
I've spoken.
The moment
Listen,
you mention the other people's
I've
name,
spoken to the president. You won't be reshuffled. Calm down.
Very good. Now, Honorable Deputy Speaker, let me go towards the conclusion of my intervention this afternoon.
Nekundi,
Fellow members of Parliament,
you won't be reshuffled.
this country belongs to all of us. And at the end of the day, when we depart from these chambers, yes, I'm part of government. I have no problem with
answer
that.
to the informal interjections. Ignore them.
Now,
No.
you know, I said we must learn and have that trait of emotional intelligence. That's why you see me not shouting and crying, because I have mastered the art of emotional intelligence. Yes, just wait. The bullets are coming. Now, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I want to move towards conclusion, but with these interjections, I might not reach there.
Yes?
All what I'm saying is that, fellow members of Parliament, in the interest of our people, in the interest of service delivery, it's time, without any political qualification, to relook at the current act, the Local Authority Act, because it is doing a disservice to our people and even to the SWAPO party-led government programs. No, it does. It is. Because why it does is because if we had a plan in place, if our local authorities were responsive to the needs and aspirations of our people, we could not have had all these mushrooming shacks in our backyard in the city.
Empirical evidence.
So, all what I'm asking is for us, and I'm including myself, to find an amicable solution to the current state of local authorities in this country, because it's out of order. The current act that we are having is outdated. It needs to be refined. Please, let us not say what we have is working while it's not working, because it's coming from an opposition benches. And we must move away from concentrating too much power in the line minister at local authority level, and especially with the urban and rural development ministry. Mind you, the officials within that ministry have more rights and power than elected local authority councillors. Yes, because anything that they want to implement as per their manifestos and as per their party programs are, at the end of the day, also there at the ministry where things does not happen, where you have officials that are blocking proposals that must come and help the people here on the ground. So I am making sound judgment. I know the face and the party that I represent is wrong perhaps, but if you listen attentively, from what I have brought, you will take one or two of my proposals and say, but let's redefine it for the interest of our local authorities. Honorable Deputy Speaker, coming to conclusion, I must say...
How many times you come to the conclusion? Oh, hi. This should be the last.
Deputy Speaker, coming to conclusion, let me plead with my fellow members that it's time to amend that provision of the Local Authority Act. Thank you very much.
I recognize Honorable Kabekotora. Okay, good.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker, for giving me the floor. The slogan that I come to learn was that We must take the government to the people. Taking the government to the people has become an unactivated slogan. And that is why, to a certain degree, I agree with Honorable Kawandenge that we need to relook at our legislation that deals with local authority and also look at the relationship between the line ministry and the local authority. I'm coming from a background of being a quantitative person, and I also had an opportunity to chair a standing committee, public accounts. And I think a lot of the comment that, or the input that Honorable Kawandenge is putting to the table came out very specifically from the Auditor General's reports, financial report, and their opinion on a number of local authorities. There will be a clean opinion in a local authority is a rare occurrence. In most instances, you find that local authorities have got adverse opinions and or disclaimers. And that must give us a message that something is not right and something needs to be done for us to rectify that particular anomaly. Now, you ask yourself, listening to Honorable Kawandenge, as to why is it that the local authorities in many instances fail to execute their mandate. I think, thinking out loud, Honorable Kawandenge spoke about the issue of decentralization, and I could not agree with you more, Honorable Kawandenge, because even in this house, as a result of observations that we went to pick up in our visits to the regions, we brought up the issue of the fact that the government has stopped the process of decentralization halfway as becoming a hindering factor to the proper functioning of local authorities. The comments that we received from those in power was that Namibia is a unitary state, therefore you cannot talk about decentralization as if we are not a unitary state. But the concept of taking government to the people is not negating the fact that we are a unitary state. It's just a mere practical way of taking the government to the people. And as a result of stopping decentralization halfway, we also failed to capitalize local authority fully in terms of financial contribution. And I'm actually surprised that central government is still taking money out of local authority for whatever purposes. Capitalizing, or the lack of capitalizing local authority in terms of financial matters as well as human resources is becoming a hindering factor to the proper functioning of local authorities. And we must admit the fact that local authorities were established after independence, and not only at the same time, some of them are actually being brought into existence after independence, long after independence. And I agree with Honorable Kawandenge that perhaps we need to look at the law, because how does one become a councillor? They go through the same process as myself standing here. You are being elected as a councillor. But you find that the power that was vested in the Ministry of Local Government can actually suspend a councillor. In other words, can suspend an elected official. And I've seen examples like in Omaruru Local Authority and others, where the minister has got the power to suspend and perhaps eventually even expel an elected official. How is it possible? If we are in a democratic setup, to have somebody who was appointed by the president having a power to suspend an elected individual. I also believe that the relationship between the Ministry of Local Government and that of local authorities and regional council for that matter is also bringing a number of confusions as to who must perform what. When I was the chairperson of public accounts, we got a report on waste management from the auditors. And we wanted to subpoena somebody, an institution, to come and answer questions at public accounts. We had a problem. The officials of the ministry from the ED were simply saying that that is not our responsibility. We cannot come and account to you on waste management because that's not our responsibility. Going back to the local authority, they say that is the responsibility of the ministry and not our responsibility to come and account. We ended up going back and forth because the role was not properly clarified. So that is why I believe that this motion by Honorable Kawandenge is not something that needs to be shot down on political grounds. I think it's something that needs to be interrogated further, because the idea is to improve on the current situation. And the current situation is not the ideal situation that one would have in our local authorities and regional council. So I believe that the mover brought up a very important aspect, and I can quantify through the auditor's report that something seriously needs to be done. Because if a minister, if I'm the minister of local government, and every time the local authorities that are under my jurisdiction are being said that I can Decay, the Auditor General, cannot express an opinion on the financial matters of this local authority because they are in a total mess. Not once, not twice, but many times. I think that is where one has to come in and start asking yourself, why is the local authority not effective? Why are local authority not efficient in their operations? And I think that is what Honorable Kawandenge is bringing to the fore. And I'm listening to him, I almost forgot that he was also a councillor. But what he's bringing up is something that he has experienced during the time that he was a councillor of the city of Windhoek. And I must concur with him that let's just think outside of the box and just look at the law and see whether there are no loopholes and close those loopholes for the interest of bringing government close to our people. Because if there is no service delivery at that level, obviously that will also trigger up to the central government. There's a linear relationship between the local authority and central government. So an improvement on the laws that are administering local authority will also subsequently be an improvement on the central government in terms of resource allocation, in terms of efficiency, and in terms of effectiveness. I thank you.
Thank you. You don't want to talk? Okay. What? I recognize Honorable Minister, Honorable Minister of Local Government.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Honorable members. I rise to contribute to the motion by Honorable Kawandenge and also to provide information to some of the assertions he made and make things clear. Yes, Honorable Kawandenge asked some of the pertinent questions that really need to be looked into Honorable Kawandenge put emphasis on the following issues. One is whether the resources placed at the disposal of these councils are adequate to enable same to effectively deliver on their legally mandate functions. That is the point he raised. Two, that Local Authorities Act number 23 of 1992 as amended remains non-responsive to the current realities facing local authorities in Namibia. It's one point he raised. Three, that the said act confers too much power. He said powers to the line minister. Not this minister, but whoever is administrating that ministry, who is not directly elected by any residents of those local authorities. Now, to help drive his point home and what kind of powers the line minister has, Honorable Kawandenge contends, and I quote from his motion, "My contention is that our Local Authorities Act of 1992 and its subsequent amendments are tailor-made to control local authorities with impunity and to make the minister all too powerful to control, to reward and to punish with impunity those he or she discards with." End of quote. The further point he raised is that Honorable Kawandenge contended that local authorities are not able to execute their mandate functions since ministerial approvals required by the Act takes months to be obtained, and that local authorities are hamstrung further by the introduction by the line ministry of bureaucratic red tape, preventing local authorities from accessing their own financial resources and lack of decentralization. 5. As such, finally, Honorable Kawandenge said, maintains that local authorities or Local Authority Act needs to end to and must be reformed to review, amongst others, or among other matters, the part-time councillors, benefits and remuneration of local authority councillors, to mention just a few. Honorable Speaker, honorable members, Honorable Kawandenge maintained emphatically in his motion that this motion must be discussed with tact and foresightedness, since it is an issue that affects the livelihood of many Namibians at the local authority levels. While I agree with him with vigor on discussing all matters affecting the sovereigns with tact and foresightedness, and this principle being central in all dealings of the SWAPO party, the majority of Honorable Kawandenge's views on the status of local authorities are rather myopic, yes, thank you. While his understanding of the Local Authority Act remains distorted. Be that as it may, I take pride in his shared interest towards prosperous Namibian. Honorable Speaker, honorable members, before I start with my reply or my contribution, please permit me to say something which I believe is eminently suitable for this occasion. It says, a wise man once said, and I quote, "The most difficult subject can be explained to the most slow, that is witted, man if he has not formed any idea of them already, but the simplest things cannot be made clear to the most intelligent man if he has firmly persuaded that he knows them already." If I may repeat, but maybe I don't need to repeat. Having said that, let me now devolve into Honorable Kawandenge's motion. On the question of whether local authorities are adequately resourced to enable them to deliver on their mandate functions, I wish to respond as follows. Honorable Kawandenge, you have been in a local authority for some few years. You're supposed to be there and then experience a lot. The Minister of Urban Rural Development, being the responsible ministry, immediately after the taking of an oath of office of new councillors following an election, conducts a nationwide induction for councillors. And I think you have been following that. These inductions are the first most important resource granted to local authorities to enable newly elected councillors to understanding their mandate and the laws and regulations governing their work. Secondly, the Ministry of Urban Rural Development has various capacity building programs for the staff of local authorities